disability and sexual orientation were the dominant equality-related complaints received by the Human Rights Commission. Between 2019 and 2020, the Commission releases its latest trends analysis report. But for more on this, we're joined by Gushwell Brooks from the South African Human Rights Commission to take us through this trends report. Gushwell, always a pleasure talking to you, and good morning. I think just for context, let's start here. The whole point of having this report, what is it, just in terms of the SA Human Rights Commission's perspective?
Well, good morning to you and good morning to everyone watching. The context is that the South African Human Rights Commission looks at each financial year, and we compile all of the complaints that we've received, both at head office level or national office level, as well as at provincial level, office level. We look at the number of complaints, number one. Number two, the second thing that we look at is also the types of complaints that we receive, and that way we collate it and categorize it based on, based on specific rights, which rights have supposedly been violated or allegedly been violated, and then that gives us a picture of, what are the human rights trends within South Africa. Number one. Number two, it also helps us inform our work in terms of where our focus should be and what it is that we need to be dealing with.
So speaking about, the 20 or the current, financial year report which you've released, let's talk about the number of complaints which I understand have increased. But you also acknowledge that even with the increase in complaints, there's also an increase in inquiries, hearings, as well as redress. It seems to have improved. Starting with the complaints, what are some of the biggest complaints that you are receiving from South Africans?
Well, you're correct that there is an uptick of 13% in terms of the number of complaints that we've received from the prior financial year. It's for the period 2019-2020, that particular financial year, just prior to COVID. Okay. And the one thing that's clear is that remains, the highest category of complaints that we receive, especially based on race. And we see that there's an increase on equality complaints based on the sexual orientation, gender identity as well. And socioeconomic rights still remain the highest. And that's why you would notice that the highest, or that the major focus of this particular trends analysis report, and the thing that we've really sort of honed in on, even during yesterday's press briefing, was specifically those equality-related complaints, as well as the social rights that seem to still be extremely high.
Yeah, and just when we look at, geographically, where are most of these complaints coming from?
Well, interestingly enough, we find that the socioeconomic rights or complaints based on socioeconomic rights seem to be coming from, the complaints are coming from different provinces, whereas equality complaints are coming from another set of provinces. So within Gauteng, you find that there's a higher number of complaints based on equality that we receive, whereas, in the Western Cape as well. But you would find that socioeconomic rights complaints are much higher in KwaZulu-Natal, the Eastern Cape, as immediate examples. Yeah,
and I know that you have, as the Human Rights Commission, secured redress for these complaints. Take me through how you've done that as a Human Rights Commission, because I've also noted in the report, I'm not sure if I should say you also lodged your own complaint, very softly, and say, we need more recognition. I think we could do with more recognition as a commission. We're not given enough, acknowledgement for the work that you do. But how have you found different mechanisms to show redress?
And that contextually, the South African Human Rights Commission is an extremely small organization. We have approximately 180 across the country. We have a very small budget, and yet we are specifically tasked with promoting, protecting, as well as monitoring the attainment of human rights within South Africa. So I think that's where the concern comes in around the capacity and the resources that the Commission has available to it. But I just wanted to highlight, that redress is sought through many ways, and obviously one of the key things that we highlight are some of the big matters that we've litigated on, which require resources. However, the Commission has, numerous mechanisms available to it in terms of carrying out its mandate. I mean, one of those things is to provide necessary education, but more importantly, there's obviously alternative dispute resolution mechanisms that we also employ, and a long list of processes that we will follow to ensure that whatever human rights violation is, is committed, is addressed. We've gone through a series of hearings. We're actually currently in the middle of another hearing. We make findings, we make directives, and those need to be followed.
Yeah, in just a few seconds I've left with you. I think it's important to also acknowledge the challenges that you've gone through as a commission. Always easy just to say the Human Rights Commission did not do this, they did not, do that for the country or address, the marginalized. But surely you should have a set of challenges that you're overcoming as an organization as well. Care to take us through some of them?
Well, I think the largest aspect of it would be the fact that we're a small organization that's tasked with this massive task of securing the entire Bill of Rights, all of the rights contained within. I think that is the largest challenge, and obviously the resources attached there too. It does, but I think ultimately their challenge can be overcome if human rights becomes the purview of everyone, including the state, civil society, as well as business. It's not just the business of the South African Human Rights Commission.
All right, we'll leave it there. I appreciate you speaking to us. Gushwell Brooks, always a pleasure talking to you. Of course, joining us this morning.